While in Jersey, we visit the Jersey War tunnels, built by the occupying German army. The tunnels are a stark reminder of the occupation of the island during World War II. Jersey was meant to be an essential part of Hitler's Atlantic Wall, and these tunnels are only one of the many fortifications that the Germans built on Jersey. Jersey was invaded and occupied by Germany on the 1st of July 1940. It was liberated by Allied forces on the 9th of May 1945. For nearly 5 long years, the people of Jersey bore witness to the particular cruelty of the Nazi regime. This map shows the tunnel layout. There are approximately 1,000 metres of completed tunnels, with the black being the unfinished tunnels. The tunnel system is known as HO8 and is one of 25 tunnel systems that were planned for the island. Not all were built, some were destroyed, and some have fallen into disrepair. This is the only tunnel system that is open to the public. It's 1940, and the United Kingdom announces that it will not defend Jersey or the other Channel Islands. Residents are left to decide whether to stay or go. Only around 6,500 residents decide to leave, leaving about 40,000 to stay on the island. On the 28th of June 1940, the German Air Force bombed Jersey, unaware that all of the island's defences had been withdrawn 1 week earlier. An invasion force followed 3 days later on July 1st and met no resistance. As German troops arrived in their thousands, Jersey was firmly under their control. These were uncertain days as the occupied learned to live with their occupiers. Today, the tunnels are a museum dedicated to how the German occupation affected the island and its people. The exhibits here are very well put together and tell a good story of how the islanders persevered during the war under enemy occupation. As restrictions and shortages increased, daily life for the islanders became more difficult. This recreation of a Jersey home during the occupation gives an insight into the make, do and mend mentality that kept residents going throughout these dark. In order to build the tunnels, a huge workforce was needed. More than 5,000 slave labourers were brought to Jersey. They were mostly Russians, Poles, Frenchmen, Spaniards and Algerians. Many died from disease, malnutrition and exhaustion. Surprisingly, there were very few deaths from building accidents. The men were treated harshly, but the Russians suffered the most. They were considered subhuman and were treated like animals. There were also voluntary workers who often had much better conditions, being offered extra wages and often receiving extra food rations. The tunnels were blasted out with gunpowder and hand tools, and then covered with concrete. They were dug into a slope for natural drainage. The location within the hill also ensured that the inside temperature remained constant throughout the year. Under occupation, the accepted realities changed for good. In the island community where trust is everything, neighbours and friends could succumb to whispers and lies. Things change when huge strains are placed on the bonds that hold people together. Who could still be trusted? With little physical resistance to deal with, it wasn't long before the German command began interfering in daily life. Its main weapon was the formidable bureaucracy, generating new laws and orders on a daily basis. Before entering the tunnels, each visitor is given an identity card of a real resident from the occupation. Glenn was Dennis Philip Lecuro. Dennis was a 17-year-old man who escaped to France. In July 1944, he slipped into a queue of prisoners that were boarding a ship that was taking the prisoners from Jersey to France. After arriving in France, he and a few others escaped and headed north, where they were eventually liberated by Allied forces. Sonia was Alexandrian Bourdain. Alexandrian and her son Reggie were well known to be police informers and collaborators with the German secret police. On the 10th of May 1945, they were isolated in a local prison for their safety. The islanders would have hung them if they caught them. Eventually they were sent to England and set free. The tunnels were originally constructed as an ammunition store and artillery barracks. As the war progressed, the Germans started to fear an Allied invasion and so converted them to a hospital. Wards were added, along with an operating theatre, a medical supply room, a casualty assessment centre and a dispensary. The unfinished tunnels were sealed off. The tunnels were fitted with air conditioning and heating systems and were sealed behind gas-proof doors. The air was circulated through an air filtration system which could remove any of the combat gases used at that time.